And we're live back on the Extraordinary Sports Podcast. I'm your host, chilling with a special guest, Ryan Hollins, NBA veteran from Pasadena. I've known him for a couple years. Ryan, how we doing on this lovely Friday LA afternoon?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me. Definitely an amazing opportunity. And yes, sir, we go way back. So, thanks for my man.
I'm doing great. Let's reminisce on that for a second. It was the NBA lockout. We had a nice little meal after you balled out. And for me, what was the best pickup game I've ever watched by a mile? I don't know how well you remember that day. I just remember the Morris twins not being able to get on a squad. That's how stacked that day was at the gym.
Oh, yeah. No, those were some really good runs. And if you think back to the talent of guys that we had playing, I mean, you had NBA All-Stars, you had up-and-coming guys, and this is before any of us were really who we were. So you definitely were witness to a couple great runs at the time.
Without question. My favorite part of that was watching KG bang his head pregame like he does always underneath the basket, as if it was like Game 6 in the Eastern Conference Finals. No difference. Pickup or playoffs.
Oh, man, Ticket was game ready. He was gloves flowing. It was a time he was running and playing, and he was off, so he was ready to roll.
Without question. And obviously we never got to our jousting match, but that was a fun little lunch of you coming up with 19 different ideas off the cuff of how to end my day in a little athlete challenge. I don't know how well you remember that, but I think
I would still love to joust with you. I think it gets some great ratings. I think we can set it up. I'll promise not to hit you in the face too much. I just think it'd be great TV.
Oh, without question. That's a for my jugular. That's a Sports Center not top 10 moment right waiting to happen. But so I want to touch on kind of your career a little bit, and then talk some NBA going on right now. Drafted in 2006 by the Charlotte Bobcats. You've played for several teams in the NBA, now most recently in Italy. First off, I want to ask, what are you enjoying yourself playing internationally and the change of pace? Obviously, we know Europe basketball has had an influence on the NBA. You've now playing in both. Have you been able to respect both crafts of what's going on both in Spain and Italy, where you have played in the last 2 years?
Man, it was a blessing. And I say that because I was able to have my eyes open to a completely different world that we live in. Mm-hmm. And I recommend for anybody that has a chance to go abroad and play or visit or travel, just go experience the world. So for me, it was one of the coolest experiences just to have been a world traveler and world citizen and employee of another country. And you really have the ability to put life and a lot of things in perspective. But honestly, just an amazing opportunity going over there and having the opportunity to play basketball.
And basketball is such a high-paced, communication heavy game. When you're over there, not everyone necessarily speaking English. Non-verbally speaking, you got to be able to be on your P's and Q's. Did you add elements to your game from a non-verbal communication standpoint because you had to?
There's a little bit of both. I think the Spanish or Italian players, they learn English, from playing with English players, and us English players learn Spanish or Italian or the other, the native tongue. And it's kind of like music. Basketball is just a universal language where we get on the court, there's no race, color, creed. If you can ball, you can ball. We're on the same team. We're in the same jersey.
Without question. And you're someone who's successful in multiple endeavors. Obviously, I'm sure you want to first shout out father and husband and next to that pro athlete. But you're also a leader in multiple different facets. I want to talk a little bit about your mentality as an athlete and how that carries over to other areas in your life. We know that we're watching a physical game of basketball, but there's also a mental component. So over the years, how have you matured mentally? And do you have any tricks to the trade? Are you a visualizer, a meditator when it comes to your mindset in the game of basketball?
think as a young guy, we're no different than anybody else, and you have dreams of the NBA or playing ball at some type of professional level. And once you get to the NBA, and you have an extent where you start to grow a family, and it's really your lifestyle going forward.
Mm-hmm.
You almost, in a weird way, you get away from that. And I don't want to say get away from it, but you learn how to be a normal human being playing on the basketball court. For those who don't know, man, professional basketball is tough. And to succeed at that level, you really have to tune a lot of things out. So it's finding a fine balance in your work ethic, your peace, and just enjoying your family and being able to, be the best player that you can be on the court. So for me, it was really a evolution of just being able to be a husband and father and friend, and being able to leave what happens on the court. So for me, that was a huge change, and just being into it, man, and loving it. I was telling somebody the other day that I love the game of basketball, and for any professional that has some form of longevity, just like any career,
mm-hmm.
you got to love what you do, because there are those tough 5 a.m. mornings or those late nights or those moments where nothing you're doing seems to make any type of sense in the world. And when you love what you're doing, you're willing to go that extra mile. You're willing to succeed. You're willing to do anything that it takes. And really, it's not so much about on the court, but just doing the little things off the court that puts you on the goal. So that I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, that's well said. Kind of going off of that, because you have been a great teammate on several teams and been a part of, a Doc Rivers. There's been championship cultures you've been around. What to you, especially the NBA, which, I'm on the outside looking in, but it's very much an alpha dominated league. Everyone is talented. Everyone's skilled. Everyone can put the ball in the cup. But there's also the element of, well, how do you balance everyone else's strengths and mesh them into a beautiful chemistry that makes a championship team? Being on several teams and experiencing different locker rooms, what do you think separates the good from the great as far as team culture and chemistry?
It starts at the top, and all the best teams that I played on had selfless superstars and guys who had won and learned from those before them. So when your superstars are in there putting in extra reps, or he's humble, or he's listening to the things that the coach has to say, it makes it a lot easier for the rest of the team to fall in line. And then the coach is allowed to coach, and players will have success on the court. But your superstars, your leaders of the team have to buy in. Unfortunately, now in the NBA, you see a lot of guys who are talented, and they should be the best players on the team or be the leaders of the team. They don't necessarily have the maturity.
Right. That's
the difference between a guy being like LeBron James and a guy just super in the middle of the pack. He's very talented, all the tools, everything it takes. But you don't necessarily see the team winning, and that chemistry really, really boils down to the little things once the talent evens out.
We're on the mic with Ryan Hollins, NBA forward, now playing over in Italy. So when it comes to the buying in aspect, can there be veteran guy? Once you became a veteran in the locker room, was your influence different? And because I'm fascinated with like a James Harden's evolution of his game from last year to this year, going with D'Antoni, and how he was able to go from the 2 to the 1 and really just change the entire dynamic of the Rockets offense and had a very successful season. Do you think as a veteran on the floor, you can impact a star just as much as a head coach? Because again, these guys are pros, are getting millions of dollars. It's got to be tough, especially from a coach that maybe never played a ton of basketball or went very far in their career, to buy into them. What do you think is the secret sauce to getting your leader on the team?
Interesting that you say that. I'm a firm believer in the value of a veteran or mature player. Steps in, does his job, and has enough on his resume to be able to lend some advice to a player of greater talent or a superstar, or a guy like and you've seen that through the years with guys like a Nazir Muhammad or Brevin Knight or Stella Harrington. It's really a natural part of the NBA that you really don't see too much of anymore. That's why a lot of these teams like Philly really, really struggle because they don't have those veterans in the locker room teaching these young guys what to do and just how to be pros. There's something unspoken about being a professional. There's a locker room code. There's an NBA code for guys to follow of how to act, how to change, how to respect each other, and things to do on and off the court that you can only learn from another veteran. So a lot of these young guys today are suffering because they don't have that in their lives.
That's very well said. Interesting point. And going off of that, you played at UCLA and you finished your career there, as opposed to the one and done and these guys coming in as 19-year-old kids in a grown man league. Are you a fan of this? Do you think it should be 2 years more? I mean, obviously there's multiple examples across the board of guys that have gone a whole term in college that end up being, you know, ready to rock a lot more than these young guys. Do you think that's hurting the NBA game, or at least the development of teams in terms of how long it takes to get them to be back to competitive?
I don't think there should be a limit. And guys are grown men after a certain point in time. I don't know what 1 year of college is going to do for a couple of these kids. Some of them need it, some don't. And you hope that they have enough people behind them to help. I think there should be a process where maybe kids out of high school can test the waters of the NBA and not hire an agent and still go and play college ball like a Randolph Morris. I don't know if you knew too much about his case, but he was welcomed back into Kentucky after testing the waters, and right after the season, since he wasn't drafted, he was able to sign and really negotiate a higher deal rather than being drafted. So it was almost like the Atlanta Hawks at the time got a draft pick. Now, I think he ruined it for a lot of other players, but I'd like to see these guys have the opportunities to go back to school and develop. You see it with international players. They do it all the time. They get drafted. It's called a draft and stash. They get drafted, go overseas, and they continue playing for their team. But for an NBA player, kids can't go back to college, and that's some of them. That's their livelihood.
Right.
So I think they should have an opportunity to get back to college or some happy medium in between. And I think of a guy like a LeBron James or even a Tracy McGrady and say, what would those guys have done? Or even Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett, what would they have done in college? Why would they go to college? What does it do? Now, some guys need it. There's no question with that. Some need it. Or maybe there's a special scenario where you can say, hey, we'll have a group of GMs or NBA officials who are, can check these guys out and say maybe there are 3 to 5 high school players that are eligible to go and enter the NBA draft if selected, and have opportunities to go pro. So a couple of those other kids don't waste their time. So I'm not sure quite what it is, but I'm a fan of if a guy's ready, he's ready. And I don't know what 1 year is going to do for a couple of kids.
I like that. Well, being a part of several postseason runs in much more competitive series than this year's playoffs, were you bothered at all by the sweeps? Golden State going 12-0, Cavs only losing 1 game, or do you think that actually makes this rubber match coming up here next week that much sweeter? Are you bothered by so many teams being, because I heard Barkley talk about it, it's bothersome to some old school guys that there's just not enough parity right now, and it's two dominant teams and then the rest of the league.
Well, you can thank Golden State and Steph Curry and the Warriors for this, because they've changed the game of basketball. And they set the rest of the league back 3 or 4 years, maybe 5, because everybody's trying to catch up. Everybody's trying to find a way to shoot. They redefined the way we thought. Everybody thought that, shooting threes, there's no way to win a championship shooting threes, or there's no way to win the playoff series. And, we always heard live and die by the three. That no longer applies. It's live by the three, live by the three, live by the three. So the rest of the NBA is now catching up to what the Golden State Warriors did. Just that good that whoever you put around him, he'll have the opportunity to compete. So the NBA will catch up in the next 3 to 5 years, but that's why you see such a discrepancy right now. Even Popovich, he said, I don't like threes, but I realize we have to shoot them in order to be successful. We've got to have guys who can put it in the hole. He's one of the mid-range type of coach, and that's what we believed in. But now he sees the value of the three-pointer.
Very true. That is spot on. He did say that. And I want to take it back to your career as an individual. I'm fascinated with. I'm a big meditator. Obviously, I've studied the fact that Phil Jackson, he taught the Kobe's and the MJ's meditation, all that. In terms of being in the moment, basketball is so quick paced, so fast moving, 24 seconds on the shot clock. You make a mistake, you turn the ball over, miss an easy layup, what have you. What do you think is the tools to the trade to being able to stay present, possession to possession, and not let failure within a game that's so fast moving rob you of the next possession, whether it be on offense or defense?
That's something you learn as a young player. And like you said, there's so many possessions. So you literally can't play the game if you're worried about play to play. There's so many possessions. There's so many different games within the game. And you let a missed shot or something like that discourage you. Your time is pretty much done on the court. That's a maturity that you'll have to go through. And honestly, Alex, that's the difference between a good player and a great player, or a guy who makes it and doesn't make it. I may not be as talented as you, but I'll never give up. I'll never get discouraged. I'll never quit fighting. And if I'm a coach, I'm taking the guy who's not going to get discouraged, the guy who's mentally tough. A lot of these kids need to learn what mental toughness is.
Right.
And right now, that's always been the advantage. That's why a guy like myself, hard worker, always has a job. For the most part, I was able to go 10 years in the NBA just off being mentally tough and working my butt off.
That's spot on, without question. Do you think the league is softer in a bad way? I've heard the Reggie Millers and such talk about the 90s and not being able to really bang bodies down low like they used to, and the great fights we saw with Lambeer and all that's behind us. Do you think that hurts or helps the game overall and the product?
Well, the NBA is now business. It's all about money, money, money. And none of us can complain to that. There are many business deals amongst the NBA. So we're just jabbing each other, punching each other on the court, even though it may be very entertaining. And as a fellow hooper, we say, hey, you shake it off and go out of the game. We can lose a lot of business deals. There's women and children that pay a lot of money to watch us play ball now. So we are this $1 trillion entity now, and you got to play by the rules. So you will see rule changes. You will say things, let go and not let go, all for the sake of money. Never forget that. It is still a business. And while you get fired up to talk about it and think about it and analyze it and get all mad and angry, that is even better, because now you're watching the NBA, now you're thinking about the NBA, and now you felt some type of way.
Touche. Were you bothered at all by the Kevin Durant move going down, being up 3-1 against the Warriors on OKC, and then joining the rival and now going to the finals with them from a competitive standpoint?
Not at all. It's a great move to the NBA. It gives everyone something to talk about. And if Kevin Durant wants to make the most for himself and his family, why can't he be selfish? He's got one body, one chance at doing this. Why can't he be in an opportunity to make the most money, the most opportunity for himself and his family? See, everybody thinks about themselves, and this person would have did this and this sacrifice and that sacrifice. He needs to take care of himself. He only gets one chance at this. So I'm very pro Kevin Durant leaving and doing what's best for himself. And man, the guy's been in Oklahoma City. I'd rather be in San Francisco than Oklahoma City, and he built something great there. They couldn't get it done. They had a run at it. The guy moved, okay? His value skyrocketed so much just by making that move.
Wow.
So much. And you'll see it more.
Yeah. Okay, I want to run this by you real quick. I did a little research because I was fascinated by that team a few years back when they had Harden. I found out a little nugget that I think is noteworthy to mention after seeing the success of Harden going from the 2 to the 1. So that last season they were together, Harden doubled his assists, and Westbrook went from 8 assists a game to 5. Riddle me this, Ryan. If they were to have swapped Westbrook and Harden, put Harden at the 1, a true drive and dish guy, and Westbrook at the 2, could we have seen a different trio or three-headed monster in OKC? I mean, it's all up for speculation, but I saw that stat. I was like, wow, I wonder if that little tweak that Scotty Brooks could have potentially done may have started a dynasty.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, my guy Russell was definitely not getting off the ball. But for two, you can't think that the Oklahoma City Thunder aren't looking back and saying, darn, we should have kept Harden and let Ibaka go.
Wow.
You know?
Good point.
Hey, we should have just kept all of them. Or maybe we should trade Jeff Green for Kendrick Perkins. But there was a different NBA at the time.
So true.
You felt like you had enough scoring, and you needed some shot blocking. You needed some athletes. You needed a post presence. Now, all those guys play together, and they run up and down and rip and run and shoot threes. And you can't have enough guys who can score or switch or play multiple positions. 2020, and I'm sure they didn't see the NBA evolving the way it did.
Mm-hmm.
But now they can look back and say, hey, man, we could have been sitting pretty nice. Now let's blow it up and try again.
Just spot on 2 cents right there. Sounded like an ESPN radio host that he is. But no, that really is spot on, because you just alluded to it. The Warriors changed the league. They're 3 to 5 years ahead of everybody. Had that OKC team had the same mindset that the Warriors have now, you're probably right. The Perkins, the Ibaka swap, keeping Harden. Fantastic 2 cents on that. I got a question for you. A couple more, and then I'll let you go. I know you're busy, man. Who was your favorite player to go against? Who brought out the most of your competitive spirit?
I can't think I can pinpoint one player, but anytime I had the opportunity to guard a big name, all-star or superstar, Dwight Howard or Kevin Garnett or Dirk or Shaq, I was thrilled, because I watched these guys and I've always been a fan of these guys and I know who they are. So for me, any of those matchups were definitely special ones. Yeah.
Quick 2 cents, being a Bruin lifer on the Ball brothers and that movement. Any opinion on that, whether it be the shoes, the hype of Lonzo going to the league, the trio of brothers all going to UCLA? What's your 2 cents being in the UCLA family?
I think that LeVar is a lot smarter than he gives credit for. He says and does things, but he wants to take advantage of every opportunity for his family and his boys, and I appreciate that he sticks with his kids. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's necessarily exploiting his kids like they say, but he's just like, we're going to keep this money in-house with the family. And these shoe companies and these teams, they make money off of our good name. And this is something that the family is going to take advantage of rather than anybody else. I'm going to make some comments of how it's going out. And, we're going to live nice off this. And when it's all said and done, we'll be living nice. So he's going to take care of himself and his family. And, I hope the best for him. But in the midst of it, he's going to give you some entertainment.
Yeah, this is true. One last question for you, and then I'll let you go. Sports teaches us so many life lessons, and the game of basketball is such a unique team sport. Anything stick out to you in playing all these years in terms of what the game of basketball taught you about life?
Basketball and life is much the same. You work hard, you remain humble, you always keep growing, you never get away from learning, and it'll take you a long ways. So pretty much stay with it, put your head down. My motto is always the type of person that you are, your relationship with God takes you a lot further than any type of the way the ball bounces, and to always keep that perspective and keep your priorities and family in order.
Well said. And who you got in the finals, real quick?
Going Cleveland.
Oh, let's go, baby!
Podcast number two.
The former Cab going with Cleveland. I love it. I'm with you. How pumped are you for LeBron that he passed MJ and all of the? I mean, it's just so much pressure on the guy with that freaking media talk. But for him to surpass him in points and actually do it in less shots. Any quick 2 cents on that? I mean, I know the comparisons.
I'll tell you real fast. LeBron doesn't care because it means nothing if he doesn't get this ring. he's going to hear about it for a long time.
Woo! I love it. Well, Ryan, so appreciate the time. Follow him on Instagram and Twitter at Ryan Hollins. Stoked to be back in the hometown of Los Angeles. You going to be on the mic coming up here, ESPN, or anything for you this summer before you head back?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll be on ESPN. Got a new show that I'm helping out with called. So excited for that, and check me out Saturday and Sunday. I'll be on 9 to 12 ESPN.
Beautiful, and I'll start stretching my entire body. I just went play a little pickup with Bone Collector, who I know you know, and Monday night, and I've been pretty much icing for 72 hours. He had me on skates, but I'll be ready to rock and roll for you if you really want to get down on that old school Knight's Tale jousting match. Maybe we can do that in a fun location here in town. And
all right, boss.
All right, Ryan. Thanks for the time, man.
No problem.
All right, take care.